Hello fellow readers, today I want to talk to you about OZAN VAROL and his book Think Like a Rocket Scientist. So, OZAN talks about a plethora of subjects in this book. First subject is motivation. He talks about mystic Persian poet Rami, who tells the road will not appear until you start. Also, William Herschel started polishing mirrors and reading books about astronomy, and he didn't know that he will find Uranus. Andrew Wiles went on a journey as a teenager when he took a book about Fermat, even though he didn't know where it will lead him. The main thing is to take a first step before you will see the whole path. So go, because if the wheel is blocked, you can try riding backwards. Go, because if you catch a rhythm, your fear of darkness will subside. Go, because as the first law of Newton says, objects in movement have tendency to move constantly. So when you start, be ready to work without an end. Go, because a small step will turn into big jumps. Go, not because it's easy, but because it's hard. Go, because it's the only way forward. And that's how we start this review, ladies and gentlemen. OZAN talks about the fact that a lot of people are idealizing or hating Elon Musk without actually thinking what made him great. And what he tells us to look at is thinking in the category of first principles and how it helped Elon transform a lot of industries and create his dreams. So, idea of first principles comes from Aristotle, who defined it as the simplest way to get to know a thing. By René Descartes, this method means that you doubt everything that you can doubt until you get to the truth that is undoubtable. As Arthur Schopenhauer says, talented humans achieve goal that no other person can achieve, but genius achieves the goal that no one else can see. It can take you from playing cover to making your own hits, from finite player, as James Carr says, moving within the rules and the boundaries. You will change into an infinite player, someone who plays with the rules and boundaries. So Musk came to realization that he was playing covers by buying rockets already made and he needed to build one himself. Next he talks about Steve Martin, that he changed the way stand-up was practiced, and then at the height of his career he decided to stop. Then changed his career. He resigned from stand-up, but he was playing in a lot of films. He was recording albums, writing books and film scripts. He won Emmy, Grammy and American Comedy. On every decade of his life, professional life, he was learning and unlearning, and learning once again. Author says that it's very hard what Martin did, because in his own experience, when he started writing blog and recording podcasts, his friends from academic society tried to warn him by telling him that he is destroying his reputation and position. He says that when we look into the mirror, we are telling ourselves a story. It's a story about who we are and who we are not, what we should and what we shouldn't do. We are telling ourselves that we are very important. Real researchers don't do blogs or podcasts. We are telling ourselves that big comics don't drop their careers at their height. This story gives us the feeling of certainty. It gives us meaning and makes us feel safe. We feel like we belong with all of the people before us, all of the researchers, comics, business guys who are there before us. But it is not us that gives it its shape, its meaning. Turns out that it is shaping us. With time, it becomes our identity. We don't change it, because a change would mean that we would change who we are. We are so scared to lose everything that we worked hard for, and we are afraid that others can laugh. We're afraid that we'll make clowns of ourselves, like me doing these videos, but the history about prestige is just it. It's just a history that we all tell ourselves. If we don't like it, we can change it. Even better, we can lose it and create a new one. And it's actually what happened to Steve Jobs in 1985, when they forced him out of his first company. It was painful at first, but it turned out to be one of the best things that happened to him. It freed him from his history and made him come back to the first principles. The heaviness that came from success was replaced by lightness. lightness of someone who starts from zero. It helped him go into the most creative times of his life. The baggage of prestige stopped preventing him from being creative. Important thing is that the answer often is contained in the question. That's why formulating the question is very important. As Charles Darwin said in his letter to a friend, it was much harder to see a problem than to resolve it. Next interesting story is about the lunar rovers, Spirit and Opportunity. There was a third grader from Arizona, Sophie Collins, who came into the world in Siberia, and she was left in orphanage. Then she was adopted by American family. It was dark, cold and lonely, she said in her works. In the night I was looking in a starry sky and I was feeling better. I was dreaming of going there. In America, I can realize all of my dreams. Thank you for the Spirit and Opportunity. And those were the names chosen for the 2 lunar rovers that went to the Mars. Next, about creativity. There was a team from Stanford that tried to do the incubators for children born before the term. So they realized that in Nepal, a lot of hospitals already had those devices, but they didn't use them due to a lack of power or lack of knowledge. But it wasn't the main problem. The problem was the fact that the children mostly were born in the houses that were a long way from the hospitals. So the kid died before it can be delivered to the hospital to use the incubators. So that's why the team invented the warmer embrace. It was very light, sleeping bag that was put around the newborn. Phase-changing material, new type of wax was providing good temperature up to 4 hours after it was charged up. It was enough to put it for a few minutes into boiling water, and the price of the machine in hospitals was $20,000 to $40,000, but the price of the embrace is only $25. So the kids born in the rural areas could be put into embrace and taken to a hospital if they needed longer hospitalization. Another great idea that we can read about from this book is that students were divided into teams and they were given $5 and they had to earn the most money in 2 hours. Most of the teams that tried to do some kind of business like a car wash failed, and the teams that did the best were the teams that leveraged another things other than the $5, the money, or just their time. They were thinking out of the box, and they thought to sell their time during a lecture to recruiting company who wanted to recruit Stanford students, and they earned $650. Another advice from the author: do a lot of hypotheses. Don't say everything is your final opinion, because then you take it in way too serious and you have to start defending it and it becomes your identity. Instead, say this hypothesis and you won't be as attached to it and you will be open to better ideas. Charlie Munger, vice president of Berkshire Hathaway, told, "We are not allowed to take a view of something before we can articulate better arguments against it than the most intelligent of our opponents." Then we jump into intellectual war played between Bohr and Einstein. It was fruitful mostly because they were both masters in the technique of attacking the hardest ideas, stillmanning. When Bohr died, the only thing left on the blackboard was the box with photons idea that Einstein tasked him to think about. It shows that it was most important throughout all of his life to have his views challenged, and he didn't defend them at all cost. He welcomed this play between them to better his ideas and make them more polished. He was searching for the truth. Next topic author talks about is the fact that our natural tendency to avoiding losses is the easiest way to fail, because behind every unfired rocket, behind every unpainted canvas, behind every unreachable goal, unwritten book, and unsung song, there is a fear of failure. Minding the failure is a key to originality. Adam Grant says, "The more ideas there are, the better they are." With Shakespeare, we know only few of his works, but during the 2 decades, he wrote 154 sonnets, 37 plays, that are still critiqued for being not well done and unfinished. Pablo Picasso is an author of 1,800 pictures, 1,200 sculptures, 2,800 ceramics, and 12,000 little sketches. That only smart part of them is worth your time. But when we think about someone's greatness, we don't concentrate on what was bad. We are focusing on the best and the highest achievements of those people. It's very important to also think about failure, losing in your prediction, but it's something different to celebrate losing. In pursuit to eliminate bitterness and shame, Silicon Valley fell into the trap of hyper-correctness. The pendulum swung too much to the other side. Remember, the beginning doesn't have to be as great, as long as the ending is great. Let's talk about a few ideas now. Pre-mortem, what is it? Pre-mortem allows us to go back a step and ask what went wrong, thanks to visualization of the worst scenario possible. See the potential problems and say what to do to avoid them. Researchers claim that pre-mortem analysis increases by 30% our ability to rightly see the causes of future results. If you are owners of a company, you can concentrate on the product that you are working on now, and in your mind you can say that it's gonna be a failure. Then you go back step by step and you search why did it happen, why did it fail. Or maybe you are trying to make a CV and get a job, and you go to step by step, why didn't you get it? Maybe you were late, maybe you didn't know how to answer a question about your previous job. Next time, think how not to fall into these traps. Other idea, backcasting. So backcasting is about the opposite of pre-mortem. Pre-mortem is going back from the unwanted result, and backcasting is going back from imagined perfect result. So this book talks about a lot of things. I only talked about a small part of this book. So, for example, to encourage you even more to read this book, what we can find in this book? We can find a story about how to fire a rocket using a tape from Home Depot, or about the loss of life of astronauts because of the arrogance and wrong mindset of a team in NASA. But in this book, he talks about much more than only astronautics, general mindset and how to think and what you should avoid at all costs. This is a book about life and decisions, how to make them, how to make sure they are right, not to become arrogant when you are winning. It's basically a book that can inspire a lot of people, and I grade it 5 out of 5. I think it's one of the best books I've read recently. So if you want to see a quick video about interesting facts about author of this book, OZAN VAROL, I encourage you to check out my TikTok, and see you in the next review. Bye bye.